The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Scarff from the Albany County Department for Aging, and welcome to Young at Heart. This is a kind of a reincarnation of a program that was first broadcast in WRGB back in the 1970s that I was very lucky to produce and host. And it is everything aging. And we welcome your comments. We will put up our email address at some point, so if you have any questions or if you want to comment on the program, be more than happy to take your emails and your comments, and we will respond and get back to you. Today I am very, very pleased to have as my guest Laura Palmer. Laura is the Associate State Director of the American Association for Retired People, which is also known as AARP. And a neighbor of ours, we're at 112 Washington Avenue in Albany, and Laura is at 99 Washington Avenue, which is also known as One Commerce Plaza, the old Twin Towers on Washington Avenue. So we're very lucky to have the state headquarters of AARP in our backyard, and we are taking great advantage of that so that we can tap into their expertise and their resources. Welcome, Laura.
Tom, I'm so happy to be here.
And it's great to have you here, and it's good to be working with you, along with Commissioner George Brown and our County Executive Dan McCoy.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Albany County has been a wonderful partner, and we're just as happy as we could be.
Wonderful. AARP. People hear about it all the time. It's a very inexpensive membership. I think it's $16 a year or something like that for the first membership, and then there's add-ons that you can do. A lot of people, and I mentioned it to you. I said, why do I get so many of those letters all the time from AARP about insurance and about this and that? That's really the lifeblood of as far as finances, I would imagine. That's what keeps us running, because the $16 from each one of the members really doesn't do enough for all of the services that you provide, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm so glad you mentioned the mail, because I think that's indicative of how much we're really doing. I think people hear AARP and they think insurance or they think discounts, but we're really doing a lot, not just at the national level, but here in Albany, and I'm absolutely happy at the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing here in the community.
How many members nationwide, would you say?
Nationwide, I don't know, but here in New York State, we have 2.6 million, so if you're not a member, you're probably married to a member or friends with a member.
Absolutely, absolutely. 2.6 million is a good chunk of the population of seniors, I would imagine. Now, AARP, unlike many of the programs that we have in the Department for Aging, is a lot younger. They consider kind of like pre-aged, I guess, is
Sure.
50 and up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that we used to be called the American Association of Retired People. We found out that most of our members are not retired. We started age 50, and because of economic factors and because people are living so much longer, folks just aren't retiring at the same rate that they used to. So we dropped the long name. We're just AARP now. And you're absolutely right. We started age 50, and 50 is not aged, but it is aging. So.
It is aging, right. Well, sure. I'd like to think that 64 isn't aged either, but
Absolutely.
My body tells me otherwise some days. It's not.
Your body is lying to you.
Yeah, well, I hope it does. Tell me a little bit about some of the services that AARP provides.
Sure. Well, I think the first two that people will be familiar with are our tax aid program and our driver safety program. Those are both programs of the AARP Foundation. And those are sort of our bedrock programs that are available in the community. If you need some help getting your simple tax return filed, AARP is here for you. If you need some help, staying on the road safely, maybe, taking some points off after a speeding ticket, our driver safety program is a great place to start.
Beautiful. And those are things that they can access right here in Albany?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They can visit us online at aarp.org/NY and find all sorts of local programming, including tax aid and driver safety.
So that is aarp.org/NY.
You got it.
And that will get you to all things New York.
Absolutely.
As far as AARP is concerned. So they haven't replaced the R with something like real? American Association of Real People, that's us?
We've been talking about real possibilities a lot. I think, we're looking at a major culture change here, where as people are aging, their opportunities are really opening up to them. It's no longer, you retire, you live for a couple of years, and it's a slow slide to the grave. It's really another part of your life that can be full of opportunities and changes that are positive. So we're talking about real possibilities, but for right now, it's just AARP.
Now let's talk a little bit about something that we're going to tease you a little bit about something that's coming up in Albany County that we're very excited about, and we'll be rolling out at a press conference on the 26th of October.
Yeah, this is huge.
And it is. It's very big, and that is an organization called the World Health Organization has partnered with AARP, or vice versa, and is doing a program about livable communities. Can you explain what that is? What is a livable community?
Sure. Well, a livable community is a community that people can live in, age in, really from cradle to grave. And when we're talking about the way that the World Health Organization and AARP and then the counties are working together, it's a commitment to make sure that Albany County and communities around the country are great places for people to stay in. I think we're finding that alarmingly, people are considering fleeing New York State, in part because it can be a tough place to age. And when we're talking about livable communities, we're making sure that, communities are walkable. Are the crosswalks, safe places for pedestrians, to do what they're supposed to be doing? Are buildings compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act? Mm-hmm. Are community services available to make sure that as people are aging, they're able to stay in their homes where they want to stay? And it's everything from Meals on Wheels. It's making sure that programs like ISEP are fully funded. It's making sure that there are transportation options available if you want to give up the keys. It's soup to nuts, making sure that the community is a good place to stay as you get older.
And it's a major undertaking for Albany County to partner. I think that we've gotten a response from the World Health Organization saying that all applications have been accepted, and so have we in Albany County. And we will be talking more about that as we get closer to the Aging Summit on the 26th of October. And for any of you who would like to go to that, I should mention this. The county executive for the last 2 years, this will be the third, Summit on Aging Services in Albany County. It's kind of a unique thing that our Albany County executive, Dan McCoy, has brought to the forefront. And we ask any seniors that want to come to it to come. We have vendors, we have speakers. I think we're going to have 7 speakers to talk about services for our older population. And it's an exciting day. We'll be ending it with a lunch this year from 12 to 1, and the program itself starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and goes until 12 o'clock, and then 12 to 1 will be a light lunch for everyone. And we just want everybody that wants to come. We'll be putting that up on the Albany County website, albanycounty.com, and also you can go to our Department for Aging link on there, and you'll find out more about it. So everyone is invited to attend that at the St. Sophia's Church Hall up on Whitehall Road in Albany, and that's on the 26th of October.
And AARP is going to be there too. It's going to be a fantastic
AARP
day.
is a major part of that. I think your state president is coming down for the press conference, and some of your executive board members will be there.
Sure.
Our local politicians, our local elected officials will be there, and it's going to be a very, very exciting day to kick off a very exciting program. So we hope that you can make it. What is your background? Because I know you're relatively young, and yet you've chosen this field, because I know this isn't your first foray into the senior population to work with us.
That's true. So my background is actually doing geriatric social work with the ISEP program out in Monroe County. Mm-hmm. But I was fortunate to be raised in a household where I had both sets of grandparents. I've always seen a lot of value in working with older people, and AARP is just such a great fit because we have so many different opportunities to work with people in the community, to work with elected officials, to work with government at every level. It's a great place to work. I love my job.
And New York State is one of the larger states for membership in AARP?
Yeah, we're one of the big ones. We're actually part of the mega state region, which is comprised of some of the big states in the country. But New York is clearly the biggest and the best.
One of the issues that people want to talk about all the time, and it's kind of a sad thing, is fraud, and it's
Sure.
Crimes against the elderly, especially fraud, because it's not, it's like a white collar crime, I guess. People are not physically assaulted, but they are assaulted in worse ways because money's taken from them, money that they might have been saving for their grandchildren's college education or for their retirement. Do you have any programs that address that?
Yeah, we offer a number of different programs and services, and I would like to mention first our Fraud Watch Network, which you can access online at fraudwatchnetwork.org, or if you just go to aarp.org, you can search for fraud. But it's a fantastic place where you can get information about scams and frauds that are happening in your area. The IRS phone call is one of the big ones, and it's a great place where you can report a scam or a fraud if it's happened to you. There's a toll-free number that you can find on the website, and you can talk to a volunteer who can walk you through what to do if you have been a victim of a fraud or a scam. And I think one of the things that I'd like to say, and I think it's important for the viewers to understand, is for older people who have been victims of scams and frauds, you're not alone. It happens all the time, and it's not a sign that you shouldn't be independent or that you're more vulnerable. It's just a signal that con artists are really, really good at what they do. And the Fraud Watch Network is a great place to interact with peers who can walk you through what to do if you have been victimized.
How important, and that's very important, and we will be discussing crimes against seniors and fraud at the summit in more depth. But it seems to be something that's coming to the fore more and more. I got a call from somebody about the IRS. You've got to call this number, blah, 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 blah. It was in Seattle, Washington. And I had a lot of fun with the guy because I knew, first of all, he couldn't speak English at all. And he was with the government. He said, I don't know what government it was. But I actually called the police department in the city that the area code is from. And he said that these guys can actually get, there's some way for them to give a number and have it come to whatever country he's in with the area code from a locality in the United States.
Sure.
So they'll go to any lengths, I guess, and there are people that would just turn over money to them.
Yeah, well, and it's not just these high-tech sort of, phone number spoofing and everything. This time of year, there's a lot of, sort of door-to-door scams that are happening. We've heard from a number of folks who have had contractors or, supposedly contractors knock on their door offering, to, do work that either doesn't need to be done or, that is, shoddy, or they take cash up front and then never show back up again. And it's every opportunity, for con artists to do what they do. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a phone call. It can be, somebody knocking on the door. It can be somebody coming in through your computer. We've all gotten the phone calls and the emails and the knocks on the door.
And I guess it goes back to the old saying, if it seems too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these guys try to get you so that you're responding from a place of being emotional. They get you under the fog or under the ether. So you're not making decisions from a place of being rational. And, if it sounds too good to be true, if you feel panicked, take a step back and, consider that it might be a fraud or a scam.
Life Reimagined.
Yeah.
That's another program that I thought was interesting when I read about it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, like I said, a lot of people hear AARP and they think, discounts or insurance. But when we went back and talked to our members, one of the things that we found is that they're all going through transitions. It could be from, work life to retired life. It could be going back to working after a time out of the workforce. It could be becoming an empty nester. Any of life's transitions present unique challenges. And Life Reimagined is a fairly unique opportunity for people to work through those transitions in a way that's very positive and very uplifting, that helps to uncover skills and talents, and that might give you some direction where you might be lacking some.
And that is something that we want to talk about in more depth also at the summit. Our programs like that, some programs that can give people a little bit of a different view of life. One of the things that we are looking to talk about in the long run is intergenerational programs. As an older person, I find that I get more of a kick out of listening to young kids. When I say young kids, I'm talking about teenagers, and talk about what's going on in the world today. Because there's so much different than it was when I was a teenager. There's a lot of challenges and a lot of things that I think we think sometimes that these kids are just kind of getting by and playing video games. There is a lot of wisdom there that we don't have necessarily that we could get from them, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going back to livable communities a little bit, I think one of the pieces that's so important to incorporate is making sure that those intergenerational conversations are taking place. One of the ways that happens, at least from AARP's perspective, is we've always been very supportive of kinship care families, grandparents who are raising grandchildren, and making sure that those grandparents have the information to tackle those high-tech questions, to make sure that their grandkids who they're raising are safe. But you're right, there's such a wealth of wisdom and information across all generations, and having those conversations is not only fun, but it's important.
So if if your grandson or your granddaughter or your child comes up to you and says that, can we talk, and you're watching the game or something like that, turn it off for 10 minutes and engage in a conversation, because it's certainly important to them. And vice versa, if they're not doing that, maybe you want to sit down and talk to them and try to find out what's going on in their lives, because we have a lot of experience and wisdom to give to them. And so what I remember AARP doing back when a long time ago, when I was first with the Department for Aging, it was legislative work, trying to push for legislation that will improve the lives of senior citizens. Back in the 70s, it was a generic drug law and the end to mandatory retirement. People used to have to retire from the state at 65 years old. And they were successful. The seniors, along with AARP, but back then there was an organization called the Gray Panthers, which was Maggie Cunin and company, and they actually, like the Black Panthers, went out and were kind of rebels and would really hold the legislators' noses to the grindstone and make sure that these problems were taken care of. One thing I've noticed in the debates and everything else going on right now on the presidential level and on all levels, there's nothing being said about programs for our older Americans. What do you think about that, and what can we do?
I'm so glad you brought up the elections, because one of our signature advocacy campaigns right now is Take a Stand. And it's about getting the candidates for president to give us specifics about what they're going to do to update Social Security for the upcoming generations. We're also talking to candidates for Congress to make sure that they're committing to work on Social Security, because while it will certainly take presidential leadership, it will take commitment from Congress to make sure that I get Social Security and my nieces get Social Security and generations coming get Social Security.
It really is, and there is a real possibility that things could change so that the Social Security system could be in dire financial straits.
Yeah, we're looking at potentially a 25% cut in 2034, which is the year that I turn 58, so I can be in my 10-year countdown to retirement. And a 25% cut could be absolutely devastating for New York families. It's not a lot of money to begin with, and when you're talking about taking 25% of it off the table, you're talking about seniors making very tough decisions about paying for their medication, paying for utilities, keeping food on the table. So it's absolutely incumbent for anybody running for president to be able to talk specifics about how they're going to update that program to make sure that all of us get the earned benefit that we count on and will count on to make sure our retirement years are years of stability.
Now, do you have lobbyists on Capitol Hill in Washington?
Absolutely.
And at the state capitol in Albany?
Of course, yeah. AARP continues to be an advocacy powerhouse, in part because we have so many volunteers who are absolutely dedicated to making sure that legislators at all levels of government are focused on the needs of the 50-plus.
Okay. And if somebody wants to volunteer, if a person doesn't have anything to do, is looking for volunteer opportunities, can they turn to you?
Absolutely. Not only do do we have a lot of different opportunities, whether it's lobbying with us here in the Capitol or in Washington. But if you're interested in, something as small as helping us with a mailing, if you'd like to show up in a red T-shirt and work at a table, stop on by my office, talk to me, and I will absolutely put you to work.
At 99 Washington Avenue, also known as One Commerce Plaza,
Yep.
down in Albany, right at the corner of
South Swan in Washington. I'm up on the 7th floor. Just knock on the door. I'll let you in.
All right, that would be. I think that's a great way to, if you have time on your hands, it's a great way to fill up some of those empty hours is by going and volunteering, if not at AARP, at anywhere, because I know you promote volunteerism.
Absolutely. We have a great group of volunteers who are just really nice people to hang out with. I'm proud to consider a lot of them friends. And if you are looking for something to, as you said, fill a couple of extra hours and, maybe want to make some new connections, grow some new skills, stop on down and see us.
What are some of the issues that you think are going to be coming up more and more? What are the hot button issues in the Asian community?
I think at the state level, one of the things that we're looking at very carefully is whether or not people have access to workplace retirement savings plans. Mm-hmm. So, younger people have heard of these things called pensions, mm-hmm. And they've really gone the way of the dinosaur. We're finding that millennials and Gen X just don't really have the same ability to save at the workplace that their older cohorts have. So we're looking at something called Work and Save or Secure Choice, which is state facilitated, basically an IRA program, so that people who don't have access to save would be able to do that. We're also looking at some issues around advanced home health aides to make sure that home health aides have a career path and are able to practice to the fullest of their abilities to help people stay in their homes and to support family caregivers. And as we're rolling into the state budget cycle coming up a little bit sooner than even I'd like to think about, making sure that home and community-based services are fully funded. Programs like ISAP and Meals on Wheels and all of those programs that help people stay in their homes and communities, it's absolutely incumbent that they're fully and adequately funded by the state to make sure that New Yorkers are staying in their homes instead of going into much more expensive and often taxpayer-funded nursing homes.
Now we have a program that I know you were involved with in Monroe County called the ISAP program, which is in-home services. It's not medical services, but in-home services for people who need help with, for instance, maybe house cleaning or laundry or whatever. But we can't find aides to go out and do the work.
Sure.
And that's a problem. What's the solution to that? Because even offering more money sometimes isn't the answer.
There's a lot of challenges around getting good home health aides. I think part of the issue has to do with the cost of transportation. Yeah. A lot of aides live in communities where bus service might not be as robust as it should be, or it's very expensive to go from client to client. I mentioned the Advanced Home Health Aid program. I think one of the challenges in keeping good health aides employed and attracting them to the profession in the first place is that there isn't always a clear career ladder, and creating an advanced home health aide position is one way to make sure that health aides get the training and the possibility for advancement that they would like. And I think part of it is just making sure that we esteem the hard work that home health aides are doing. The work that they do to help keep our older neighbors and friends in their homes and communities is absolutely critical, and they deserve all of the esteem and gratitude that we can offer them.
I agree, and it's I say it's almost like the dishwasher in the kitchen. The most important person in the kitchen. If you don't have dishes, you're not going to be able to put out the food.
Very true.
And the most underpaid person and the person with one of the hardest jobs. And it's the same thing with the home health aides. They're going out and doing work that a lot of people wouldn't want to do, but many times it's because they have the passion for the people who can't take care of themselves. And no matter what we pay them, it's not going to be enough. But in this case, we have a pot of money to provide these services, but we don't have the workers to go out and provide the services.
And I should say ISAP is one of the best kept secrets in the state. It exists in every county in New York State, and with ISAP, which stands for the Expanded In-Home Services for the Elderly Program, you can get a caseworker who can help connect you to services and supports that you might not know about, including things like Meals on Wheels and transportation options. And as you rightly mentioned, if you need a little bit of help with things like getting the house cleaned or maybe taking a bath, ISAP is a great place to start, and it's a very affordable option.
Tell me something that I never even thought about, to be quite honest with you, is the LGBT community.
Yeah.
And Albany County has a fairly large population of members of the gay, lesbian, transgendered community. What do you find are problems for older, vintage LGBT community members?
Well, I think the LGBT community in general is almost pathologically focused on youth.
Yeah.
So it's tough sometimes because older members of the LGBT community are often invisible. And so, services are not always set up to reach that community in a way that's as effective as it possibly could be. We're very fortunate here in Albany that we have the Albany Pride Center, which does some fantastic work. And I should mention, I'll put in a plug, we're actually showing a movie tonight, Tuesday night, as part of our Movies for Grown-Ups program. I don't know if this will air in time or not to get the word out there, but it's just an example of some LGBT programming that we are doing. And it's something that AARP is going to be working on more in the future. We actually have funding for the first time to do some LGBT outreach here in the Capital Region, which I'm absolutely thrilled about.
So where is that going to be?
It's going to be at the Spectrum Theater right on Delaware. The movie is called Desert Migration, and it talks about older men back in the heyday of the AIDS and HIV epidemic who went to the desert for health and found community and healthy aging. It's a very uplifting movie.
It sounds like it would be.
And I hope you'll be there.
And that would be, I think I'm going to try to make it. It is. We're taping this on primary day, on the 13th of September. So, if I can get away from the polls, I will certainly be there. I will be there, actually.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to it. We're going to close in just a minute. What's your hope for the future as far as AARP is concerned, and your hope for, you've made seniors kind of like your passion, your career path.
I want to be part of making sure that the communities that we live in are great places to age. A community isn't fully a community unless everybody in that community has an active role. And making sure that the voices of the 50-plus are robustly heard in our communities is a huge part of the work that I'm doing now. As a Gen Xer, it's a little bit self-interested because I'm working to make a community that I want to live in as I get older. And I know that AARP and Albany County will continue to be, good partners toward that vision.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you, like I said, as a neighbor to the Department for Aging, and in our backyard, the state headquarters. Is there a local chapter, or is this something, there are no local chapters of AARP, right?
There are local chapters of AARP. So if you are interested in joining a local chapter, if you go to aarp.org, right in the search box, type in chapters. You can find one by your local zip code and often find a wonderful group of people. If there isn't a chapter in your neighborhood, think about stopping down and volunteering with us. Like I said, we have a great group of volunteers. They're not a formal chapter, but they're wonderful friends and neighbors, and it's a great group of people to get connected with.
And it's an organization that no matter where you go in the country, if you're a member, you're a member.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a national organization, first and foremost. And, we're just, I can't thank you enough for being with us, Laura, and for the partnership that we've forged recently especially. And we're looking forward to working with you for the age-friendly community program that we hopefully are becoming. It's, I know it's a very long drawn-out process. There's a lot of work to it, but the county executive is committed to it. So I thank you for being with us.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure, and we could not be happier at the very large commitment that the county executive and all of you have made to make sure that Albany County is a great place to live and age. We're happy to be your partners.
Thank you. Our guest today has been Laura Palmer, the Associate State Director of AARP, the American Association of Blank People, because it's not all retired anymore. So it is still called AARP, but not the American Association of Retired People. And as one of those blank people, I'm very happy that you were with us today on Young at Heart. I would encourage you to write to us if you have any questions or comments at youngatheart@albanycountyny.gov. I'm sorry, albanycountyny.gov. And we look forward to seeing you next time right here on Young at Heart.